My name is Tahira Ehsan, and before this I was known as Tahira Bashir, and this is my story for Colourful Heritage. I was born in 1960. I was born in Quetta in Pakistan, and my mum and dad were from Gujranwala, and my dad moved over to Quetta and I was born there. My dad was Haji Muhammad Bashir. My dad was educated in Pakistan, and he moved to Quetta because his older brother lived in Quetta, and he came for a job, and he was a clerk to the courts. He knew so many languages, he could speak so many languages already that he was important for the judges there. And he did a lot of clerical work, a lot of admin work. And people were coming to him because he was educated and saying, could you get us a visa? Could you help us fill out these application forms? How do you fill out passport forms? And my dad helped them. And eventually he thought, I'm getting all these people visas and they're going abroad and they're making big money. Maybe I should do the same. So he had this idea in his head that he would do the same thing. So he and 15 other people applied, and they came over. So they came in a 16-seater bus, and they traveled from Pakistan through all the different countries, and they arrived. And because the driver was originally from Glasgow, that's where he ended up. Because we always asked Dad, why did you come to Glasgow? Why not stay in London? But no, it was because of the driver, and drove the bus straight from Pakistan to Glasgow. When Dad came here first, it was Pollokshields is where he settled, and it's in Pollokshields that we grew up as well. We moved around in various houses, but it was always Pollokshields. South side of Glasgow was his love, and that's where predominantly we stayed and grew up. The people that he was with, they helped him to find a job, and he became a bus driver because he was educated, and he had managed to get a driving license here, and he drove the buses. So he loved that, and he got on, because he spoke English, he got on great with the Scottish people here, and they all called him John. And they said, oh, Muhammad is a common name, so it's like our John here. So they called him John, and the name stuck. So even though when he left the buses and he became a shopkeeper, the people knew him as John. Every shop that he had, they called him John. Well, when Dad came here, he came here in 1962. And like I said, he worked on the buses, and then he had a few shops, he had some businesses. Not very good at businesses, getting businesses stolen from him. But eventually, when he thought he had a good business, he set this business up, and in 1974 he decided that he was going to do Hajj. He left his business behind in the care of somebody, and he went with his 6 children and his wife, and we went to Hajj. And mashallah, at that time in the 70s, not very many people brought children with them, but people there were so astounded by this fact that they helped my mum and dad everywhere we went. People were, looking after the children, giving them water, giving them something to eat, making them sit down, looking after them while mum and dad performed the duties. And I remember it was such a lovely time, really, really nice time. I had a lovely childhood, I must say. The Scottish people, they just sort of adopted me. And the grannies round about adopted me, and they would take me out for tea, and they would take me out for dance classes and ballet classes and tap and you name it. They just, like I said, adopted me. And mum and dad were great, but there was a lot of tension and a lot of racism. And when I started primary school, and my brothers and sisters started, and my dad was, at that time, he had businesses, and he found that when we came home, we would say things like, Dad, do we live in mud huts? Because my teacher said that I come from such a place, I live in mud huts. And he was very disappointed. And when he looked at our books and he saw the racism and prejudice in the books, he said, this is not what life is like, this is wrong. And he wanted to do something about it. So at that stage, when we were in primary school, he started to get involved go on the parent and teacher forums. A lot of people's eyes were opened that here's somebody coming here that we thought that we were not being racist and prejudiced in any way, but somebody else is telling us, yes, we are. So they started to look at the school curriculum, they looked at their books, and they started to change all these things. And then Dad started to get a feel for things like that, wanted to make a difference to other things. People were coming to him and saying, because you're educated, you can talk. Can you ask about this? Can you do this? Can you come to the school meetings with me for this? I don't understand that. And then Dad got more and more involved. He started the Pakistani Social and Cultural Society. He helped to open up the cinemas in Jamaica Street in Glasgow, and he would run the films, Indian films there every week. That was a social gathering. Dad, when he was an interpreting officer, and like I said before, he came across so many issues. One of the things was that every time they had a function, the Pakistani Social and Cultural Society, for example, they would invite dignitaries, invite guests and Scottish people, and they would sell alcohol. And Dad would say, this is not part of our deen, it's not part of our faith, and we shouldn't be doing that. And he was the first person to stop these kind of things. Like I said, my dad was educated, so he wanted his children to speak English. And right from the word go, Dad spoke English with us. So primary school was great. Secondary school, I must admit, I didn't have any problems, and I must have been one of the very few lucky ones that didn't experience racism at all or prejudice. And if anybody did have anything against me, I had a good group of friends who stood up for me if it was needed, not that it was. I helped open up some of the first Asian girls after school clubs, and we would run that. The first after school club we set up was in Glendale Primary in Pollokshields. This was in the 70s. We were young teenagers, we didn't have anywhere to go. My friend Munira and I, we ran the clubs along with a couple of Scottish girls, and we didn't want to make it exclusive. We wanted to bring in Scottish girls as well. So although it was the first Asian, it was open to everybody. And first of all, there were Asians that came, but when more girls heard about it and they said, well, we would like to join, we opened the doors. We wanted for girls to mix, the Asian girls to mix with the Scottish girls. And we did things like playing badminton. We had writing classes or drawing classes, just even having little chats, and just leave it open for people to come in and read and do what they want to do. Glendale Girls Club, that's what we called it. At the same time, Asian people were still looking for something to entertain them, and although cinemas were opening up, there wasn't very much else, but people liked to listen to the radio, and the BBC then decided that they needed a channel, and they approached Mr. Fife that I mentioned earlier, and they asked do you know anybody who might be interested, and he put forward my name and my colleague, my friend Harjeet Ram. We were approached, we said yes, we would like to do it, and the show was called Eastern Echoes, and it ran for 11 and a half years with the BBC and Radio Scotland. It was just a half-hour programme, but it was enough for us to have a fan following, and people writing in, people phoning in, and it was like having the latest topical discussion, or just having news, the views of people. We were talking about, I think 1981, 82 it started and ran on till 1994, and it stopped on the 3rd of April 1994, because that was the day after my daughter was born, and my last broadcast was live from the hospital after I gave birth to her. Since that time, I got married in between that, and I've had, mashallah, 4 children. But I have been working. I have been working for past 32 years as a civil servant anyway, and so I've kept myself busy. Maybe religion didn't play a strong part in the beginning when I was growing up. Always thought I had time for religion later on. But Mum always read namaz, Dad read namaz, and they always said, wear this, wear that. So Mum and Dad, whatever they said, we didn't try to rebel because there was no need to, because they never said anything untoward. It wasn't anything negative. So, but we knew that we had an identity. I didn't want to, I wanted to show that I was Pakistani. I know about the culture. I've been to Pakistan. I've seen it. The fact that how close knit the community is, and that brought me up thinking, well, these are people that I can rely on. I didn't have to, and they made me confident in me that if I wanted to wear like shalwar kameez, I've always worn them. I wear them to work. I don't wear anything else but shalwar kameez. The hijab I only started wearing recently, and I think it's since Dad passed away that I started wearing it, and I'm more conscious of it. Nobody forced me to wear it, but I just felt that this was the right time to start wearing it. When they did Ramadan, we would wake up in the morning, Mum would make us parathi in the morning, and and we would have that. We would be able to keep a fast. The Scottish friends didn't understand this, but the more we did it, the more they understood. They wanted to know a lot more. So it was easy for us to talk to them and tell us this is what's going on. And with Dad being there and always giving out talks as well, he went to schools, he went to job centres, he went to health centres, and he talked about it. It was easy for us to talk about it as well, and we didn't feel as if there was any barriers to stop us. If there was any barriers, it'd be ourselves. If we're embarrassed, to do it. But I think that's through lack of confidence. But we had that confidence, and it was given to us by our parents that we could do this. And because of that, I don't think it's ever been a barrier to anybody. I think you should make a difference. I think that's very important, that you make a difference. The fact that this is being videoed and people, you're talking about, I talked about my dad. It's so important. I didn't realize how important his life was to people until he passed away. And people would come up to me and say, your dad helped me this, your dad helped me with that. I didn't know that was your dad. He did so much for me. You didn't, the fact that even if you make a difference and smile at somebody, that makes a difference. And that's what you should do. You should make a difference. There is a reason for you to be here. So use that and make a difference.